Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Let me get that off my face. There, I'm back. We're back. Sorry about yesterday. A lot of weird things going on, but we're back. And still dealing with some lighting issues here. But yeah, Maverick News Channel back on the air tonight. We're dealing with some censorship issues, some banning issues, but we're working through it, and we are on the air tonight. Also dealing with some plumbing issues ongoing. Not to worry, though. We will persevere. Lots of news to talk about. Enough above all that. Let's get on with the news, because there are some important stories to deal with. School shooting in Nashville. Runaway train out in California. We'll bring you the latest on that in just a moment. Canadian Taxpayers Federation with a message to Canada's finance minister a day ahead of the federal budget in Canada. Reaction to that school shooting, too, coming up from the White House. What else do we have for you? Oh, yes. What are they referring to this as? New legislation in the United Kingdom dealing with precision bred is the way they're referring to this. It's genetic engineering. We're going to talk about that because it's not just referring to plants and animals for food production, which is what the legislation through the mainstream media is being described as. This piece of legislation is also referring to humans. Just going to draw your attention to that tonight. Also, sovereignty. It's at the core of everything. It really is. Not just domestically, as we're talking about constitutional issues, rights and freedoms, but also internationally. And we're seeing these same issues front and center as we examine the war in Ukraine and the ongoing conflict between NATO, the United States, and Russia. Talk about that a little bit tonight as well. Set the table for more. And we're going to also tee up some important stories that are coming up later in the week, this week. We have some big guests lined up, big stories lined up for you, key interviews through the week this week. So lots to share with you, lots of ground to cover. Don't go away. We have more coming up right after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom. We are Mavericks. We say no to the Trudeau and Biden New World Order. And to bugs. Because bugs are creepy and gross. And people should not eat bugs. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey, no! To bugs!
Lead story tonight, Runaway train, California. That's what we put up on our thumbnail. Extremely concerning. The latest information is that it is a train with 180 cars, no crew aboard. It was a runaway train, but it has derailed in Kelso, California. So it was pulling 180 cars, as I say, when the crew realized the train was out of control. It was traveling at about 80 miles per hour. So the news we have is that the crew had to jump off the train. So at the time of this incident, it was traveling across the Mojave Desert, headed towards the city of Barstow in San Bernardino County. And the fire department and other first responders have arrived on the scene now. Here's a look at a photograph released by the fire department from San Bernardino. This is what it looks like at the scene, where these rail cars have come off the track. Obviously, a major concern, given what we've seen in other locations, especially in East Palestine, Ohio, where vinyl chloride leaked and was then set on fire intentionally. Tomorrow night, we do have representatives from an organization called United for East Palestine joining us here on the Maverick News channel to bring us up to date on their efforts to draw attention to the situation in East Palestine, and also their efforts to, I guess, raise funds or provide support for testing, blood testing for residents there to determine their level of exposure to the dioxins and toxic chemicals in East Palestine. The good news coming out of this is that these cars were loaded primarily with iron ore. And even though the train was leaking fuel, we are told tonight by officials that the derailment poses no environmental hazard, no safety hazard because of any leaking chemicals to the public. So hazmat crews have responded to the area, but as I say, we're told that there is no immediate or severe danger to the public as a result of this derailment. And nobody on board at the time. So very close call. It caught our attention simply because the train was running out of control, and that is why we made it our lead story tonight. But there are other stories that at this point have resulted in loss of life. Most important, shooting at a school in Nashville, Tennessee. We'll bring you up to date with this report, and we also have a news conference with the police chief. And here we go.
Turning back now to that breaking news coming out of Nashville, we can now report 3 children are dead. That is according to the Associated Press after a school shooting, a private school there in the Nashville area. Police say a suspected shooter is also dead after the school shooting. Again, this is a private Christian school in the southwest part of the city, specifically the Green Hills area, if you're familiar. And some new details here. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation now says there is no current threat to the public. Again, that school shooter has been killed. I want to bring back in Tracy Walder, former FBI special agent. Tracy, thanks for sticking with us through this breaking news. That new update, 3 children are now dead. How does this change things there on the ground in Nashville?
I mean, obviously, this is now a murder investigation. I don't know how much it really changes the nature of the investigation, especially because the gunman is now dead. But I think what they're going to have to start looking at is what school security procedures were in place. It sounds to me, based on what I've seen, is that the gunman was engaged immediately when he came on campus. So it's hard to know how deep he penetrated into that campus. But that's one thing that they'll be doing. Another thing that they'll also be doing is looking at where the gun was purchased, how the gun was purchased, and who this individual was.
And just so heartbroken for these families and the parents of those 3 children. Tracy, this has obviously happened so quickly. There's no chance that next of kin has been notified, right? Or am I wrong?
It's hard to say, Marky. I don't know. It depends on whether or not the school was able to identify some of these little ones or not quickly. I would imagine next of kin would not know at this time, and they're not going to release the names anytime soon. These are minors, so it's really up to their families whether or not they want their names released.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to pick your brain on, when this first was breaking, we were hearing conflicting reports, active aggressor versus active shooter. What is an active aggressor? I mean, how are those 2 things different?
For the most part, it's semantics, right? But at the same time, an active aggressor is more of a sort of broad term in that there is an imminent threat and somebody has sort of surreptitiously gone into a scene using aggressive measures. And so at that point, they may have not known if this individual had a weapon or not, which is why they may have used that term. It's hard to say for sure. And then once they found out that the individual did have a gun, they were able to then use active shooter, because we don't know what the 911 calls were like when they came in. And we don't know if the individual or the shooter was identified as having a weapon or not.
Okay, so the shooter part of it just makes the aggressor part more specific. Another thing I wanted to show you and pull this up, we have this map, this bird's eye view map. You can see the school, the Covenant School. If we have it, we can pop that. Here it is. Okay, so this building right here with the white roof, that is the school where this shooting has taken place. And just off to it, off property, is actually that fire department. Tracy, talk about the importance of the proximity. There we go. You see the mouse circling. That's the fire department. Tracy, talk about the proximity and how big of a difference this likely made for what has transpired at this school, that authorities were able to so quickly arrive on scene.
I'm looking at the bird's eye view right now. Well, first of all, I think 2 things. There's really 2 entry and egress points. That's really critical in a situation like this. But I also think the fact that the fire, I'm guessing that they're also EMT certified as well, were able to get there so quickly, in my opinion, probably saved a lot of lives, and were probably able to engage the suspect and neutralize him. I really think that absolutely saved lives. It's incredibly fortunate. I did not realize that was a fire station that close by, but that is a very rapid response time. They're literally on the campus and they are able to get to the scene and what we call stop the bleed, and stop individuals from passing away.
Oh, Tracy Walder, thank you so much. I know this is not the last time we will talk today. Thank you for your perspective, your expertise, and we'll stay on top of this story. Thank you for
And my microphone is muted. That report courtesy of News Nation. We do know more about the incident. We know that the shooter is being described as a transgender person by the name of Audrey Hale. A very unusual case, very rare for a mass shooter to be female. The mass media and the mainstream media and authorities are describing this person as a transgender person, classifying the person as a female. So I'm not exactly sure how that fits into any of these particular categories, but any way you look at it, it's a very unusual case. The shooter was killed by police at the scene today as this story unfolded. And tonight, the entire community is in mourning. We do have the news conference now with Nashville's police chief. We'll go to that for you here.
Situation. My heart and prayers go out to the families of the 6 people who were tragically injured. Um, what I know at this point is at 10:13 today, our officers responded to a shots fired call to Covenant School. It's a church school. Officers immediately responded. A team of 5 immediately went in the school, went to where gunshots were being heard, and engaged the suspect. We have identified the suspect right now, tentatively a 28-year-old female white. We know the address of that person as well, and so we have some ongoing investigations as to that. We have 3 adult victims, and we have 3 children who have been identified and their families have been contacted. Right now, I will refrain from saying the ages, other than to say I was literally moved to tears to see this and the kids as they were being ushered out of the building. Uh, I want to say thanks to all of our partners, to the FBI, to the ATF, and other federal partners, to the THP, Tennessee Highway Patrol, the TBI, the district attorney.
A lot of people don't know this, but if you have the
Just one moment. We'll go back to that. Here we go.
Who all came together and seamlessly addressed this situation as quickly as possible. I've already gotten a request from the national media about a great response. We're still assessing that as well. But what I can say and what I've said before is that whenever I hoped that we would never have this situation, that if we ever did, we would not wait. We would immediately go in and we would immediately engage the person perpetrating this horrible crime. And so that's all I can say. Right now, we have David Rouse, director of the TBI, who will come out to me to address his portion. And then we have others that will say something as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Again, I want to echo what Chief has said in reference to the great support and the great teamwork that has been taking place here, as well as sending our heartfelt prayers to the families, to this community of these victims. Now, I know there'll be people who want to criticize us for prayers, but that's the way we do that in the South, right? We believe in prayer and we believe in the power of prayer. So our prayers go out to these families. The role of the TBI in this investigation is we have been asked by General Funk to assist in the officer involved portion of this incident. So the incident where the officers engaged the suspect, we are assisting the Metro investigation. And the reason we've got Metro doing the primary investigation is because it was a fluid scene. So there wasn't a single stop in the action. So as they investigate the homicides, then we felt it was most appropriate for them to continue that investigation. But we will assist as in our role as an independent oversight on the officer involved situation. And so that will be the role of TBI. We too want to thank all of our partners. It is special. We've had this conversation, unfortunately, too many times in Tennessee, and that is that you wish you wouldn't have to do these types of scenes, but when you do, you want to have the working relationships that we have in our law enforcement community here in Tennessee. It is amazing, and we've all come together as one and working very tirelessly, and we'll continue to work together to address this situation. It's a horrible, senseless tragedy, and we will be here working with our partners to get through it. And, next, I'd like to introduce the District Attorney General for this area going forward.
This is the ultimate crime when school children and caregivers are the victims of senseless gun violence. Can't say anything before we first express our concerns for the victims and their families and the extended number of victims that are traumatized by today's events. I came out on the scene today because our current operating procedure is that when an officer is involved in a shooting, that the TBI comes out, and I knew that this was a unique case, and I want to make sure that everything was handled appropriately. Director Roush was out here almost at the exact same time I got here, and Chief Drake had already been on the scene for a while. The three of us met and talked about how the investigation was going to be handled. We made a joint decision affirming what the two law enforcement leaders, how they wanted to proceed, which was that Metro was going to handle the bulk of this, but the TBI would participate in a capacity to continue with making sure that we have transparency and everything, and to make sure that any backup that MNPD needs in the continued investigation will be provided. Can't not stress enough how seamlessly that worked to have a conversation, a decision to be made quickly and appropriately as far as how the case is going to be handled from here. Hats off to Chief Drake and to Director Roush. Also want to thank Chief Swan and our federal partners as well. While I cannot comment about the ongoing nature of the investigation, really impressed with the work that's being done by law enforcement.
Okay, we're going to pull out of that news conference for the moment. What we're going to do is go to the White House, to the media briefing there, where this mass shooting has also been addressed. And we'll start here. We go.
Happy Monday. So we're seeing the heartbreaking news of another shooting of innocent school children, this time in Nashville, Tennessee. The president has been briefed on this situation, and our team is in contact with DOJ and local officials about what is known so far. We want to express the president's appreciation for the first responders and prayers for all the families affected by this shooting. While we don't know yet all the details in this latest tragic shooting, we know that too often our schools and communities are being devastated by gun violence. Schools should be safe spaces for our kids to grow and learn, and for our educators to teach. As you all know, President Biden has taken more action than any president in history on gun safety, from nearly two dozen actions, including the executive order he just signed last month, or this month, pardon me, to the bipartisan Safer Communities Act legislation he signed into law after the tragedies in Uvalde and Buffalo. He also believes it's not enough. We must do more, and he wants Congress to act, because enough is enough. In his State of the Union, the president called on Congress to do something to stop the epidemic of gun violence, tearing families apart, tearing communities apart. How many more children have to be murdered before Republicans in Congress will step up and act to pass the assault weapons ban, to close loopholes in our background check system, or to require the safe storage of guns? We need to do something. Once again, the president calls on Congress to do something before another child is senselessly killed in a preventable act of gun violence. Again, we need to do something. I also wanted to say a few words about the deadly tornadoes that tore through Mississippi on Friday night. As the president said in a statement over the weekend, he and the First Lady are praying for those who lost loved ones in these tornadoes. To that end, President Biden approved an expedited major disaster declaration for Mississippi early Sunday morning and ordered federal funding be made available to support emergency response efforts in the areas affected by the severe storms. Secretary Mayorkas and FEMA Administrator Deon Criswell were also on the ground yesterday to assess the damage, survey emergency response efforts, and meet with Governor Reeves and other state and local officials. We remain committed to doing everything we can to help those impacted by these storms and help them recover. Tomorrow, President Biden will travel to Durham, North Carolina to kick off the Investing in America tour with a visit to Wolfspeed, a manufacturer of semiconductor chips that is investing $5 billion to expand their North Carolina operations and create 1,800 good paying jobs right here at home. Over the next 3 weeks of this tour, the president, vice president, first lady, second gentleman, and members of the cabinet will fan out over 20 states across the country to visit communities benefiting from Investing in America agenda. This includes places that are seeing new and expanded manufacturing facilities and creating new jobs thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act and CHIPS and Science Act, groundbreakings of new infrastructure projects funded by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and small businesses that stayed afloat or started because of help from the American Rescue Plan. They'll highlight not only the impact of President's economic agenda in these communities, but also what's at stake if MAGA Republicans in Congress get their way and repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, hike taxes on hardworking families, and slash funding for manufacturing, innovation, and research. As the president likes to say, budgets are a statement of values. That's why his budget cuts taxes for working people and families with children by almost $800 billion. And it pays for that by asking the super wealthy and large corporations to pay their fair share, all while not raising taxes at all for anyone making less than $400,000 per year. Tax proposals for MAGA House Republicans look very different. They want to add over $3 trillion to the debt, with giveaways skewed to the wealthy and large corporations. And even with those huge tax cuts, they're also advancing proposals that would raise taxes for middle-class families, hardworking Americans, and seniors. Now they've even suggested they won't release a budget so they can hide how much of their deep and harmful program cuts are just paying for their tax cuts. That's irresponsible and not supported at all by the American people. And while Republicans in Congress are pushing for tax breaks for ultra-wealthy and large corporations, they're also introducing measures to deny millions of their own middle-class constituents from getting the student debt relief they need and deserve. We're talking about more than 2.1 million borrowers who have applied for student debt relief in Texas, more than 380,000 borrowers in Louisiana, more than 250,000 borrowers in Iowa. These are hardworking borrowers who, for the most part, make less than $75,000 a year. They're asking for a little extra breathing room as they prepare for loan payments to restart. And how are their Republicans elected officials responding? They're bent on denying middle-class families the relief they need, while at the same time slashing Pell Grants to provide a $3 trillion tax giveaway to the ultra-wealthy and corporations. These are the same Republican officials who voted to forgive hundreds of thousands of dollars in PPP loans for businesses. Some even had their own loans forgiven, as you've heard the president speak to many times. So I want to be very clear here. President Biden will continue to fight for the middle class families as he has been this past 2 years in his presidency. The president has also made clear he will veto H.R. 1, another bill that House Republicans have put forward to drive energy costs up for middle-class families, pad the pockets of big oil companies, and endanger the health and safety of all Americans. H.R. 1 would double the cost of energy efficiency upgrades that families need to reduce household bills. It would repeal key provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act to cut energy costs and boost economic development. It would eliminate pollution control requirements that prohibit big companies from polluting the air we breathe. And it will allow petroleum refineries that use hydrofluoric acid, a highly toxic chemical known to cause severe burns, eye damage, declassification of bones, to avoid any requirements to consider safer alternative. It is no wonder the bill was endorsed by big oil companies. And with that, Amr, thank you for your patience.
Of course.
Take it off.
On Nashville, pointed to last year's bipartisan reforms, as well as alluded to the executive actions, I think, of just a few weeks ago. And then you also pointed it's not a panacea, but is there any disappointment from the administration that these efforts haven't had more of effect on lessening the scourge of terrible violence?
Well, I don't have the data in front of me on what the president's executive action has been able to do. Clearly, those are actions that are that he was able to do on the federal level. But the president has been very clear. We need to take more action. We actually need to ban assault weapons. We need to take more action so that our children are safe in schools, so that our communities are not torn apart. And we've been very clear about that. The president is going to continue to be consistent. He mentioned that at the State of the Union when he had an opportunity to just not speak in front of Congress, but also speak in front of the American people. We have to do more. The president has done almost as much as he can from the federal level to show how important this is to him. And this is something that he has been working on since he was senator, right? 30 years ago, when the first assault ban weapons passed, it was because of the work partially of then Senator Biden. So again, he's going to continue to call on Congress to act. This is, we can't keep seeing what we saw today. Right now, we're hearing 6 elementary kids dead.
3 kids and 3 adults.
And so this cannot be happening. Our administrators or educators their lives can't be put on the line here when they're going to teach our kids. And the president's going to continue to speak out, and Congress needs to act.
If I could just ask about in Israel, before you got out here, Prime Minister Netanyahu announced his decision to delay action on the judicial overhaul until the next parliament session.
So we'll pull out of that. Enough from the White House today on that. It's very clear what their position is. They keep repeating the same policies. It's something that just goes around and around and around and around in circles. And these gun control measures don't seem to make any difference ultimately. The efforts to bring in more gun control measures, when they do bring them in, it doesn't seem to make much of a difference. The root cause is, I think, and this is me editorializing, but I think the root cause of these shootings is not in the guns. It's in social policies, drug abuse, prescription drug use, family structures, attacks on the family, support mechanisms not being there for young people, especially young males. And we're seeing that now resulting in these kinds of incidents, which just don't come to an end. We'll be back in a moment. A lot of other news to cover tonight, and including a funeral for those 2 police officers in Canada.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And we are back. So tonight, funeral services held for 2 police officers. Let me just bring this up here. I need just, here we go. So there's 2 Edmonton police officers, Jordan and Ryan, remembered today during a procession where family and friends assembled to pay their last respects. Thousands of police officers and first responders joined in the salute to these fallen officers today, which involved a procession from the Alberta legislature to Rogers Place. And following that, there was a regimental funeral. I have the photos of the 2 officers here. Travis Jordan and Constable Brett Ryan. Killed in the line of duty. And as I say, thousands of police officers there today to pay their last respects. Killed in an incident where they were called to an incident on March 16th, and a youth, approximately 16 years old, who was at an apartment complex, and it was some sort of a domestic dispute, ambushed the 2 officers and killed them, shot them. The incident is still under investigation, and we will be providing updates on that as more information becomes available. But today, these are some images from the scene today. As you can see, thousands of police officers marching through the downtown of Edmonton. Senseless. So yes, we will update that. Now out of, we were talking about that runaway train earlier. There was also this incident. A Canadian Pacific train derailed in rural North Dakota and did spill chemicals. This happened Sunday night, overnight. And even though hazardous materials were spilled, local authorities and the railroad there both say, again, that there is no threat to public safety. No injuries, no fire associated with this derailment. It did occur in a rural area outside of Windmere, a town that has a population of several hundred people. It's about 60 miles or 97 kilometers southwest of Fargo. Canadian Pacific spokesperson Andy Cummings says that 31 of the 70 cars involved left the tracks. This happened about 11:15 p.m. last night. And some of the cars did leak liquid asphalt. However, there are no waterways near there, according to officials, and there is no danger to the public. It's expected to take, I think, several days for crews to clean up the chemicals there. But this does, again, put railroad safety back in the spotlight, especially after that train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, involving that Norfolk Southern train, where they had to evacuate half of that town, about 5,000 people, near the Pennsylvania border, as a result of that derailment, which leaked vinyl chloride. And as I say, tomorrow night we will have here on the program representatives from United for East Palestine, an organization that is helping to provide testing, blood tests for people who live in that community to determine the level of their exposure to the toxic chemicals. In another incident in Calgary, a house explosion. All kinds of things going on, I'll tell you that. It was a massive explosion. It happened in Marlborough around 8:50 a.m. this morning. 10 people were taken to hospital, 6 with life-threatening injuries. And quite a number of people in the area lost their power as a result of the explosion. Let me see. I'm going to check here to see if I can get any of the latest updates. Just checking in on my messages. No, we know that 10 people were injured, as I say. And so the latest information that we have here is that 6 of those 10 were considered to be in a pretty bad way, suffering from injuries that were life-threatening. But so far, we are being told that it doesn't look like there were any fatalities. Just 10 people seriously injured. And as a result of that explosion, there was another home that did catch fire. I do have some video to show you. Right here. That was the scene there this morning. Calgary's fire chief, Steve Dongworth, says in addition to leveling the home that actually exploded, 2 other homes actually caught fire and 8 others were damaged as a result of that explosion. So it remains under investigation. And they're looking at the natural gas line there. And again, when we get more confirmation on additional information from the Calgary Fire Department and police, we will update this story for you. But that is the latest on the Calgary home explosion. And we've seen a couple of those from various cities over the past month. There was another one from Western Canada that occurred in a new subdivision that is under construction. So very concerning. Stay with me. We've got more information and news right after this.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The banking crisis is not over. They keep trying to put a positive face on it, but they're still sorting things out. And tonight we're being told that First Citizens Bank will buy about $72 billion in assets from the failed Silicon Valley Bank, where this banking crisis first bubbled to the surface and started all of this. Silicon Valley Bank is a regional lender with about $210 billion in assets, and it collapsed, as you know, earlier this month. It's the 16th largest bank in the country, or at least it was. Shares of North Carolina-based First Citizens Bank, the nation's 30th largest bank, rose about 47% in early trading today as a result, I guess, in part of this news. And today's transaction included the purchase of about $72 billion, as I say, of Silicon Valley Bridge Bank National Association's assets at a discount of $16.5 billion. That according to FDIC officials. That information came out in a news release earlier today. 17 former Silicon Valley Bank branches will open their doors as First Citizens Bank branches, according to the FDIC. So, no doubt, First Citizens got some of this stuff at a bargain basement price, and they're really buying up the paper, the debt that SVB had accumulated, and whatever other assets the bank had. And we've seen a domino effect within the economy and the banking system, not just in the United States, but also internationally with Credit Suisse and even impact on Deutsche Bank. So the government obviously taking pretty serious steps to stabilize the banking system and restore public confidence. But it's also pretty clear that this is far from over. So what else can I tell you tonight? We have, so we got the train derailments out of the way. And we are one day away now. Tomorrow in Canada, the federal budget will be tabled. Always a vote of confidence. People always talk about a possible vote of non-confidence, especially in the freedom movement. They, you talk to folks and they're frustrated with the government. They say they want a vote of non-confidence. Well, tomorrow, federal budget being tabled. Anytime a budget is tabled, if it's defeated, that's considered a vote of confidence. And if defeated, that would be then a vote of non-confidence. It could result in the government being defeated. Will that happen tomorrow? I would not count on that at all. The Liberals obviously have the support of the NDP in their coalition. And when this budget is tabled, I don't think there's any question. I think it will pass tomorrow. And as a result, the Liberal government will carry on. Today, however, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, ahead of the budget, held a news conference in Ottawa. We have their comments for you now, trying to hold the Liberal NDP government's feet to the fire on the issue of the budget.
I'm Franco Terrazzano. I'm the Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and we have a message for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland ahead of tomorrow's budget. Stop the tax hikes and stop the Member of Parliament pay raise. On April 1, MPs will take more money out of Canadians' pockets and stuff more money into their own. The carbon tax is going up. Alcohol taxes are going up, and MP pay is also going up. MPs will take their fourth pay raise since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic on April 1. We estimate this year's pay raise will range from an extra $5,100 for backbench MPs all the way to an extra $10,200 for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. But Canadians overwhelmingly oppose the MP pay raise. 4 out of 5 Canadians oppose the MP pay raise, according to Leger poll results commissioned by the CTF that we're releasing today. Stopping a pay raise isn't rocket science, especially when Canadians overwhelmingly oppose it. The feds stopped MP pay raises between 2010 and 2013 in response to the 08-09 recession. BC recently froze pay for MLAs. Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston recalled the legislature, froze MLA pay, and then cut his own pay by $11,000. Here in Ottawa, backbench MPs currently collect a $189,500 salary. Trudeau collects a $379,000 salary from taxpayers. MPs don't deserve another raise, and MPs don't need another raise from their constituents who are struggling to fill the fridge. MPs especially don't deserve a raise when they make life unaffordable with tax hikes. The carbon tax will increase to 14 cents per liter of gasoline and 12 cents per cubic meter of natural gas on April 1. The carbon tax will cost the average family between $402 and $847 this year, even after the rebates, according to the Parliamentary budget officer. That's a couple weeks of groceries for a family of 4, but it's being taxed away. On April 1, alcohol taxes will also go up by 6.3%. Canadians already pay half of the price of beer in tax. This tax hike will make beer, wine, and whiskey more expensive. It will also hurt small businesses like breweries and restaurants. This alcohol tax hike is fundamentally undemocratic. If politicians think that Canadians aren't paying enough tax, then they should at least have the spine to vote on the tax hike. But the government has increased this tax year after year without a vote in Parliament. That's undemocratic, and it's wrong. But this month, something happened. MPs voted on a motion calling on the government to scrap this year's alcohol tax hike. The motion passed with support from all opposition parties. The government needs to respect Parliament and cancel the alcohol tax hike. Many Canadians are struggling and cannot afford higher taxes. Many Canadians are deciding whether they can afford the package of ground beef or the jug of milk at the store. Canadians worry about losing their homes as mortgage payments go up. So here's how Trudeau and Freeland can make life a little more affordable and fair for taxpayers in tomorrow's budget. Stop MP pay hikes and stop the tax hikes. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Nicholas, who will do our formal remarks in French. Then we're happy to take questions.
Thank you. Donc,
Obviously, a serious budget coming up tomorrow, given the instability in the banking industry globally, the possible impact that it could have in Canada, high inflation, the war in Ukraine, all of these factors coming into play. Well, here's what played out today in the House of Commons during question period. Here's the leader of the official opposition, Pierre Poilievre, Conservative Party of Canada. First up.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 8 years of this Prime Minister and his taxes and various costs and penalties, there's a war on work. A worker might lose up to 48 cents out of every dollar they earn. You work hard and then you're punished. Mr. Speaker, will this Prime Minister put an end to his war on work by cutting taxes to ensure that you actually earn the money you've worked for? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, since 2015, we have shown that we care deeply about the middle class and those who are working hard to join it. That is how we've brought 435,000 children out of poverty thanks to the Canada Child Benefit. We have created 50,000 childcare spaces up to today by reducing costs by 50%. We have helped 230,000 kids access dental care, and we have added 2 million jobs to the economy by increasing women's participation rate by 3%. These are various measures that the Conservatives voted against, but here on this side of the House, we will continue delivering for Canadians.
What we voted against is the Prime Minister's war on work, with higher and higher taxes and clawbacks that punish people for working hard. In fact, a worker can lose as much as 88 cents on the next dollar he or she earns. There's no common sense in that, Mr. Speaker. Why would people work more to just give it over to this Prime Minister? Will the Prime Minister reverse his anti-work taxes, give Canadians a break so that hard work pays off and Canadians can bring home powerful paychecks?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, from the moment we first got elected in 2015, we put success for the middle class in this country at the heart of everything we do, which is why we delivered a Canada Child Benefit that lifted hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty, why we've invested in clean energy and new jobs that have helped Canadians from coast to coast to coast. We've also delivered a Canada Workers Benefit that the Conservatives voted against that is supporting low-income workers and continuing to be more generous. We move forward on supports for dental and rental for low-income Canadians that Conservatives directly voted against. We will continue to be there for all Canadians, including workers. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The only place he's been is in the pockets of Canadian workers, taking away their money. He's raised taxes on paychecks, raised taxes on gas, raised taxes on home heating, raised taxes on food, raise taxes on small businesses. And what does he want to do this Saturday? He wants to raise taxes again. Mr. Speaker, inflation is at a 40-year high after 8 years of this Prime Minister. Canadians cannot afford to eat heat, and house themselves? Will he show a little bit of restraint and commit in tomorrow's budget to no new taxes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we've demonstrated every step of the way that we're there to support workers, that we're there to support Canadians, and that's exactly what we've done. When we lowered the small business taxes to record levels and even allowed larger growth from small business while continuing to benefit from those. We've continued to step up on supports for workers, continued to step up on supports for families, and that has created both economic growth that has benefited everyone as opposed to the trickle down that the Conservatives still push with tax breaks for the wealthiest, as we have continued to grow the economy in meaningful ways for everyone.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Is his. He wants to take away everybody's money, centralize it in his own hands, and promise that it will trickle down through his mighty bureaucracy and all of the prodigious interest groups that gobble it up. And there'll maybe be a few little drops that get down to the people who actually earned it in the first place. You know, when I first said deficits would cause inflation, all of the experts disagreed, and now they all agree with me. In fact, even the finance minister has now come around to my view, admitting that deficit spending causes inflation. That's why people are paying more than at any time in 40 years. Will he cap government spending and put an end to the inflationary deficits tomorrow?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I tell Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is still hoping and waiting for experts to endorse his plan to opt out of inflation by buying cryptocurrency, something that would have erased savings of Canadians. The fact is, tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, we're bringing forward a budget that is focused on affordability and supporting Canadians. It's going to be delivering healthcare results for Canadians right across the country and creating great jobs for the middle class in a clean and growing economy. Those are the focuses that we've been laser focused on over the past many years on Canadians. We will continue to step up and be there to grow the economy and support all Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The worst part of his inflationary policies are in the price of housing. We see now Vancouver's the third worst housing bubble in the world. Toronto is the 10th. They're worse than Manhattan, than Singapore, than London, England, and countless other places. And the average required down payment, rent, and mortgage payment have doubled under this prime minister. His inflationary policies have made life worse, and his gatekeeping friends prevent housing construction. Will he announce in tomorrow's budget serious penalties for those gatekeepers that drive up housing prices so that hardworking Canadians can bring homes they can afford? Thank you.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. We know Canadians are struggling with the cost of housing, whether it's a young family looking to buy their first home or a student looking for an affordable apartment near campus. This is why we've taken action on so many fronts, from helping Canadians save up for their first home to investing in building and repairing more homes, including supporting local governments to fast-track the creation of 100,000 new homes, providing support for low-income renters, which the Conservatives voted against, and ensuring houses are used as homes, not investment vehicles, by curbing unfair practices that drive up prices, including banning foreign home buyers and a federal anti-flipping rule. L'honorable député de la Prairie.
The honourable member for La Prairie. Let's talk about Chinese interference, Mr. Speaker. No, this government hasn't been able to sweep it under the rug. On Thursday, the House voted in favor of a public independent inquiry on Chinese interference. The Bloc Québécois, the NDP, the Conservatives are all in favor, and 72% of Canadians are for it. Even the member for Don Valley North is for it. Even the Liberal, who is facing the most serious allegations, is asking for an inquiry to cast light on this. When will the Prime Minister understand that the only defensible option is a public inquiry? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I take this very seriously. It is a non-partisan issue, or an issue that should never be partisan. That is why we have appointed an unimpeachable, non-partisan expert, the former Governor General, David Johnston, who will review this matter and decide whether to call for an inquiry or another type of investigation, and we will certainly implement his recommendations. 2 national security organizations will investigate the matter, and they will get to the bottom of it. The honourable member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, I was forgetting that the Prime Minister is not the only one who doesn't want an inquiry. There's also his good friend, the Liberal Jean Chrétien, who also doesn't care about interference unless, and I'm quoting him, the ambassador or consul of China is running around with envelopes with cash in them. So according to Jean Chrétien, if there aren't any envelopes full of cash, apparently there's no reason to investigate what's happening to our democracy. Is that really the liberal ethical standard, Mr. Speaker? Does the Prime Minister like to see that his only ally against an independent inquiry is the father of the sponsorship scandal? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we can see here how the Bloc Québécois is trying to make this into a partisan issue, but it isn't. This is a serious matter that must be addressed impartially and independently. And that is exactly why we asked an extraordinary Canadian who has often proved his loyalty and service to the country. That is why we have asked him to oversee all necessary processes to get to the bottom of things and to ensure that Canadians know that we are doing everything we can to fight foreign interference. That is the serious approach that Canadians deserve, not partisan attacks.
For Burnaby South. Millennials in Canada are feeling the squeeze of inflation more than the rest of Canadians. In fact, a CBC article reports the trustee insolvency has concluded that Canadian millennials have been dealt a bad hand. And it's true. You look at it, they got student debt, they've got bad credit card debt, and post-pandemic tax debt from collecting CERB. In fact, it means that more and more millennials are filing for bankruptcy. In the interest of generational fairness, will the Prime Minister confirm today there will be measures in the budget to give young Canadians a break?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, from the moment we first took office in 2015, our focus has been on supporting young people and supporting all Canadians. And we recognize, for example, that millennials are struggling with the costs of housing, whether it's a young family looking to buy their first home or a student trying to rent an apartment near campus. That's why we've been taking action on so many fronts. On housing, we've been helping Canadians save up for their first home. We've been investing in building and repairing more homes, including by supporting local governments to fast-track the creation of 100,000 new homes. We're providing support for low-income renters, which Conservatives voted against. We're ensuring houses are used as homes, not investment vehicles.
The honourable member for Burnaby South. C'est clair que le coût de la vie.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear that the cost of living is going up. It's harder and harder to make ends meet or to buy groceries. We learned recently that the government will announce a grocery rebate in the budget. So today, I would like to confirm that that rebate is the same thing as what we've been asking for a long time, to double the GST rebate. The Right Honourable Prime Minister, I know that all my colleagues here on all sides of the House are looking forward to seeing how we're going to help Canadians in tomorrow's budget, but they will have to wait, like everyone else, to see all the measures that we will be bringing forward. But I will say that we will be there to help with the cost of living. We will be there to help youth, seniors, and all workers with measures that will help during this difficult period, while ensuring that we also get results in our healthcare system and that we create good middle-class jobs in a greener and more sustainable growing economy.
The honourable member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
8 years of this Prime Minister's high taxes and higher government spending, 50% of insolvencies and bankruptcies are on the backs of our millennials, despite them only taking up a quarter of the population. They're borrowing at record deficits just to get by. And the dream of home ownership is dead for 9 out of 10 Canadian young people who say they'll never get into a home thanks to these Liberals. They'll make it even harder when they jack up their failed carbon tax on April the 1st. Will this Prime Minister today commit to no new taxes in tomorrow's budget so Canadians can get into housing?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, since forming government, our government has reduced poverty in this country by 56%. That's 2.7 million Canadians, mostly seniors and children, who are better off because of our government. We've done that by increasing investments in affordability, investments in things like childcare, like dental care, like healthcare, and we're well positioned for the future. With our debt to GDP ratio and our deficit lower than any other country in the G7, and Canadians themselves have produced over 830,000 jobs since the start of the pandemic.
The honourable member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Speaker, let's look at the record of the most expensive housing minister in Canada's history. This genius spent $89 billion to give Canadians double the cost on mortgages and rents, and now it costs double just to save up for a home. These geniuses also made the cost of everything going into a house double, like gas, groceries, and home heating, and they're going to jack that up even further with their failed carbon tax on April the 1st. Again, will they commit to no new taxes in tomorrow's budget, yes or no?
I just want to remind the honorable members to use their language judiciously and just try to respect each other, not mock or criticize each other. The Honorable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I guess when you don't have much of a housing plan, you resort to gimmicks and buzzwords and attacks against your fellow colleagues. But, Mr. Speaker, what we have done from day one is focus on all Canadians in different spectrum of the housing sector, whether it is getting people off the street, building permanently affordable housing for those experiencing homelessness, building more deeply affordable housing for the most vulnerable, making sure that we're increasing the supply of new rentals, and yes, building more home ownership options for first-time home buyers. We've done all of that despite the party opposite voting against each and every measure, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Speaker, the cost of owning or renting a home in Canada has doubled. The cost of heating that home has doubled. The cost of getting groceries in Canada has gone up by double digits. And despite the inflation that Canadians are paying, and the surge in revenue that's actually creating for this government, their unnamed sources are conditioning Canadians for more spending and higher deficits in tomorrow's budget. So simple question, will the Prime Minister tell Canadians today that he, tomorrow, will not raise taxes on them?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to remind the member opposite that it was our government that actually reduced taxes for the middle class, not once, but twice. Reduced taxes for small businesses, not once, but twice. While inflation is a global phenomenon, we in Canada are very well positioned to take care of it. We have the lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7. We have the lowest deficit in the G7, and that's going to allow us to continue to invest in Canadians, in good, sustainable, clean jobs, and making life more affordable.
Okay, we'll pull out of that. In reality, our taxes are at record levels. Never paid more in taxes in Canada. We've never had so much debt as a country. Never has the economy faced such challenges, especially now with the global banking system on thin ice. We shall see where things end up. Inflation, the big monster that the federal government still has to wrestle with as it prepares to table its budget tomorrow.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Genetic technology. In the United Kingdom, this has now passed final reading. The Genetic Technology Precision Breeding Act of 2023. This isn't really getting much play in the media at all, either mainstream or independent. But it seems to me like this is a pivotal piece of legislation, now law. It has passed final reading, and what we're looking at here is legislation that is designed to open the way for gene-edited food products in England. But if it's happening there, it will open the door, I think, across the Commonwealth. And each country is dealing with it in slightly different ways. But when England does something like this, it sets the tone across much of the Western world. So the Genetic Technology Precision Breeding Act sets out new regulatory protocols, a new regime that may provide faster and easier paths to market for certain gene-edited plants, animals, and derived products. Now, the thing that I noticed about this legislation while reading it is that it doesn't just refer to plants and animals, it also makes reference to humans and human embryos. I find the language in this to be most concerning. So, the Precision Breeding Act applies to precision bred organisms. These are defined in the Act as plants and animals that have been genetically modified through the use of modern biotechnology. This is a real thing, not a conspiracy theory. This is all available on the government website at legislation.gov.uk. You can find the whole thing right there. So the definition of modern biotechnology for the purposes of the Precision Breeding Act aligns with the set of techniques listed in Regulation 5.1A or B of the Genetically Modified Organisms Regulations of 2002. Ultimately, the effect of the Precision Breeding Bill is to create a distinction in law between precision bred organisms and all other genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, which I'm sure you've all heard about. And I know many of you out there probably try to avoid purchasing GMO products at the supermarket. So I'm still studying all of this, but as I say, the thing that really got my attention when I started to read this bill, after having this really brought to my attention, was the reference to humans, to human embryos. And as you scroll down and look at this document, precision bred organism in part 1. In this act, precision bred organism means a precision bred plant or a precision bred animal. Part 2, for the purposes of this act, an organism is precision bred if any feature of its genome results from the application of modern biotechnology. Every feature of its genome that results from the application of modern biotechnology is stable. Every feature of its genome that results from the application of modern biotechnology could have resulted from traditional processes, whether or not blah, 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 blah. is genetically modified organisms, plants and animals. This might seem like it is only aimed at the production of food and agribusiness, but when you scroll down and you find references in here to human embryos, my radar goes up. A big red flag is signaled for me. This, to me, is legislation that is flying in under the radar, where people are not paying much attention. And these references to human embryos is kind of being added in here. Meaning of relevant animal in section 10. In this act, relevant animal means an animal which is a vertebrate. And the definition of animal in the Animal Welfare Act 2006 is extended for any purposes by virtue of section 1.3 of that act to include invertebrates of any description. Regulations may amend subsection 1 to extend the definition of relevant animal so as to include invertebrates of that description. And as we know from other reports that we've done, about 6 months ago, we talked about crossbreeding of species, experiments that are underway right now, where they've actually created crossbred species. Again, actual science fact, not science fiction. For me, it raises all kinds of ethical issues. If you're blending, mixing human DNA with animal DNA, it raises all kinds of questions about rights. At what point does a living creature or being become human, or would it be classified as human? How much human DNA, what percentage of a living thing's DNA would have to be human to be determined to be worthy of human rights? Is it ethical or moral to be experimenting or harvesting or farming anything that contains human DNA? I don't want to speak out of turn on this legislation. I honestly need to read all of this more thoroughly to get a better understanding of it. But you can find more. You can find the entire document and judge for yourself. I'll put it up on the screen right here. That's the website where you can find the PDF of this entire document for yourself. I'll also add it to the description on YouTube and Rumble so that you can find this information for yourself and judge for yourself. You have to read it carefully. All of this technology, the way that it is being used, makes me very, very uncomfortable. There are provisions in this legislation for penalties to be imposed upon any organization or individual that misuses the technology or releases organisms into the environment or the world without authorization. If they fail to follow this legislation or the laws properly. So it does lay out penalties, but once you release something into the world, at that point, sometimes we've already discovered that it can be too late. So if a genetically modified or virus or a virus that has been manipulated through gain of function research is released into the environment, at that point, the genie is out of the bottle, as we have seen. it just spreads far and wide. If there are actual new organisms or genetically modified animals and plants that are released into the environment, like so many other things directed by, controlled by government and even scientists, there are often unintended consequences. Even though this has passed into law, it seems to me, especially after what we've been through over the past 3 years, that this legislation and any other pending legislation like it, or any other legislation that has been enacted into law in other countries, probably needs some serious, sober second thought, or a third thought. Right here, they talk about enforcement in section 32, and they do make reference to a compliance notice, a stop notice, a monetary penalty notice. But really, is that enough? Is that really enough? If you have to issue a stop notice, my guess is it may already be too late at that point. And I'm not saying that everything related to this involves human genomes or human DNA. That's not the case. The primary focus of this is supposed to be, I think, on food production, the agribusiness, agri-industry, genetically modified plants, crops, seeds for farming, and genetically modified animals that would make them more resilient, perhaps grow faster, make them less vulnerable to diseases, yield higher financial value for farmers, perhaps become leaner, less fatty, higher quality meats. I don't know where all of this would eventually take us, but we're already seeing some of this through biotechnology and genetic engineering. And if you recall, we did that whole episode, probably again about 6 months ago, where we looked at breeding pods and human farming. This is real stuff that they're looking at. It's not that we have these farms in place at this point, human farms, but you know they're looking at it as a real possibility, where you could even have a pod at home to breed a baby instead of having it the natural way. And as a result of that, you actually, they're talking about you being able to pick the genetic characteristics of the child that you order. This may seem like it's focused on agriculture, but a lot of the references in there make me realize that it goes far beyond that. I just draw your attention to it tonight because it has now passed final reading in the UK, and it absolutely needs more scrutiny. Don't go away. More ahead right after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Sovereignty, freedom, two pretty broad terms. Right now, I would say sovereignty and freedom are the two key things. Everything, both domestically in Canada, the US, Western countries, Russia, Ukraine, globally, everywhere. Those are the two key issues. We keep hearing about things like, well, genetically modified organisms, biotechnology research, mRNA, Agenda 2030, climate change, SDGs. These are all issues, but overarching everything, sovereignty. As I've been digging into the freedom movement as well, at the heart of everything, sovereignty. What is sovereignty? That word, I think, flies over the heads of most people because they don't think about it much. But ultimately, it means a nation state's or a nation, its ability, its right to self-determination. The ability, the preservation of the rights of a nation to determine its own destiny. Why do I bring this up? I bring it up because at every turn, I'm seeing this play out, especially in Canada and the US, but especially in Canada and in Russia. When you look at what's going on in the freedom movement right now, sovereignty is the overriding issue, period. It has been from the beginning. And I'll have more to say about this in the weeks ahead, too. But it all comes down to sovereignty. Sovereignty of First Nations, United Nations Declaration of Rights for Indigenous Peoples. That's all about sovereignty as it relates to Indigenous people. If you look at what's going on with Mr. Friesen and the Buffalo Party, the Independence Party out west, they have a new declaration, which we have not really touched on here. But their declaration, it's all about sovereignty. The federal government worried about its sovereignty and its power. Sovereignty is everything to a nation state. The Liberals, the NDP, preserving their power by making sure that Canada as a nation state preserves its sovereignty. You see, the issue of sovereignty is really at the heart of everything. Because when you're talking about globalism, it's about the United Nations, it's about these globalist elites, if you will, usurping sovereignty, taking the sovereignty away from nation states like Canada, our right to self-determination. How is that happening? I think people don't really understand. It's not that complicated, though, really. It's our politicians signing away our sovereignty. It's our politicians entering into international agreements that give organizations like the World Health Organization, the United Nations, the authority to dictate policy and procedure and laws to us instead of us preserving our right to govern ourselves. Essentially, when our government enters into an agreement like the Paris Climate Accord, they're signing away our sovereignty, our right to make our decisions for us. When they enter into international health agreements that allow these international organizations to supersede or make decisions that override our laws, our politicians have effectively given up our sovereignty. I'm just finding it very interesting to see this happening globally. And then also listening to Vladimir Putin speak. Because a lot of the language that he's using is exactly the same kind of language that I'm using right now. The references that he's making to his nation state's ability to determine its own destiny in the face of a United Nations, NATO, international rules-based order. What am I referring to? It's about sort of a international law that was always in place, or just laws that were always in place that governed the relationships between nation states, countries. And then this new kind of law that has been enacted through the United Nations, through NATO, which is a law that is being dictated to other countries based on a collective view of what the law should be, where new laws are being written, new rules, a new rules-based order has been written by UN countries and NATO countries. That's largely what is at stake right now for Russia, its ability to determine its own destiny. In the face of NATO and the United Nations saying, no, we've made these new laws, these new rules, you must follow them. And it's that same actual attitude, it's that same approach to global governance that is being imposed upon us as citizens, where our constitutions are being ignored. That's ultimately at the heart of everything. That's the core of the problem. And that's why, as I sit here tonight talking to you about this, you can begin to understand why so many common citizens like us can relate or understand, or I guess equate the battle that we're fighting against the globalists as people who love our countries, Canada, the US, to what Vladimir Putin is actually up against as well, what he's fighting for. He's fighting to preserve Russia as a nation state in the face of globalist pressure to bend the knee and accept this international rules-based order, which is new. It's rules and laws that have been written by people who belong basically to the United Nations and NATO and the United States. And he's saying, no, Russia is its own country. We get to determine our own destiny, which has always been the case since the creation of Russia. And China has that similar view, and Iran, and many other countries on the other side of the fence. But on this side of the fence, it's a collectivist mindset or ideology that has taken root. And it has been thus, really, I think, since the creation of the League of Nations, which then evolved into the United Nations. And now you're seeing the results of that in this new world order that has been created by the Western elites. That's why I think people, just everyday people in Canada and the US, are sitting here saying it seems almost like Vladimir Putin is fighting for us. In many respects, I guess you could look at it that way, because he's fighting for nationalism, the preservation of Russia as a nation state. That's the way he views it. We also, I think, as Canadians, as US citizens, want to preserve the country as its own nation state. We believe in in nationalism. We believe in our countries, not in a state within a global nation, governed by unelected globalist elites at a higher level. I don't know if what I'm saying is resonating with you folks or not, but really, it's all about sovereignty. I want you, if you're a regular viewer here, to remember that word, sovereignty. It's going to come up over and over again in the weeks ahead. It's going to come up as we discuss the war in Ukraine, the new multipolar geopolitical reality that we face, as we talk about local, provincial, and national politics in Canada, as we talk about the political environment in the United States. At every step, you will find that we will keep coming back to that word, sovereignty. As it relates to UNDRIP, First Nations, over the course of the rest of this year, I think you will see major changes politically, especially in Canada, also in the United States, as it relates to sovereignty. Who gets to control the country? Who has the power in the end? How will that play out over the next year? This will be a pivotal year. We're going to see a lot of political posturing, strategizing, and I sure hope we don't see violence as a result of this. Unfortunately, as people struggle to assert themselves and gain power or preserve the power that they have, that's always a risk. Always a risk. There are people out there as well who are engaging in this process and the political gain, who have the luxury right now of being very critical of the powers that be, without needing at this point to completely reveal or reveal at all what their true political position is or where they really want to take things. In fact, there are some political players out there who are living and working in the shadows, not really even revealing themselves, and yet extremely active, hiding in plain sight. This may sound rather cryptic tonight, and I suppose that it is, because I can't reveal everything that I know at this point, but I will. There's so much more going on behind the scenes than people realize, especially right now in Canada. There's a lot going on that people are not aware of. Games being played at the highest level, jockeying for position and power. And yes, a lot of this relates to the journalism that I was practicing over the past, 3 months, as it relates to that big event back in Winnipeg. It turned out to be what it was. That is far from over. I said back then that it wasn't just about Winnipeg, that it's a much broader issue. And it's all related to this: sovereignty. Sovereignty. Who's in charge? Who gets the power? Does the nation get to determine its own destiny? Very, 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 very important. going to hear a lot more about this. Tomorrow night, Weldon Hachey, who ran for the mayor's position in Barrie, Ontario, will be joining us on the program again. He's Thong Man. You may remember he was on the program before. Super nice guy, freedom fighter. And he wants to come on the program tomorrow night to talk about an event that's coming up April 1st in Ottawa. And so I said, yeah, of course, Weldon, come on the show. So he'll be here tomorrow night. And actually, what he's going to talk about is related to exactly this. Even though it may not come out in those terms, it too, everything he's going to be talking about in this demonstration coming up in Ottawa, it's all about sovereignty. Sovereignty, sovereignty, sovereignty. Because you see, the Agenda 2030, climate change, the use of farmland, all of these issues, it all comes back to sovereignty and whether we as a country get to determine our own destiny as a nation state, or if we have to take orders from someone in a glass office in New York City or some other place around the globe who's been given the authority by our own politicians who sign documents and say, yes, we agree to this global agreement on climate change. You tell us what to do. Or do we get to make our own decisions here? A lot of people talking about the formation of new parties as the solution to our problems, new political parties. I'm going to say this, and this is my opinion. I don't think the creation of new political parties is going to help all that much if you can't win the hearts and the minds of the people. Ultimately, regardless of what parties you have in place, you need to change the minds of the people in order to get them to support you and your policies. It may help to create a separate political party or a new political party because you get to create your own framework and your own platform, your own rules, your own political party constitution even. And then from there, you can make changes to the federal constitution potentially if you get elected to power. And so that might help you bring your ideas forward into the public forum, where then you could win the hearts and minds of people. But ultimately, it's still going to come down to that. You can create all the political parties in the world, an infinite number of them. But if you can't get people to support you, then it doesn't amount to a hill of beans. You have to win the people over. And ultimately, the people are the people are the people. You have to sell the ideas to them, and you have to get yourself elected. The only way to affect change is to get the people to support you. That's public relations. That comes down to information warfare. Unfortunately, the first casualty of war is truth. And I hope that as we venture down this road, dealing with this struggle between nationalism, countries that seek a nationalist solution to their issues, the struggle between that nationalist sort of ideology around the world and the globalist ideology, as we deal with all of this, I sure hope that we find peaceful resolutions to these things, especially on the domestic front. Unfortunately, already right now, we're seeing that politics has deteriorated into actual conflict in Ukraine. And there's no question in my mind that that is a conflict between NATO, the United States, and Russia. That is an example. It shows exactly where it all is going. And keep that in mind, folks, because we don't want that same scenario to play out here on domestic soil. Far too dangerous, far too scary. Stay with me.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, we're going to go to the phones. I should also explain before we do that, though. I see some of you asking about our ban. Yes, it is true. One of our channels has been banned. Going through a process with regard to that. But yes, one of our channels has been banned. Not just temporary. Two of our channels have been banned. One of them temporarily, another one permanently. I know why. And it's not just organic. I used that word freedom a few moments ago. Everyone should ask, what does freedom mean to you? And who are you following? Just because someone's running around yelling, freedom, doesn't mean they mean it. Every politician, every bureaucrat, every dictator around the world has used the word freedom, and they've rallied troops around themselves. Well, they brandish submachine guns or full-up machine guns and tanks and bombs and assembled military forces of people that they call freedom fighters, but sometimes they're fighting for anything but freedom. I know why our channel received the permanent ban. It's because of people who don't believe in freedom of speech. And I'm not talking about the people at YouTube. I'm not talking about Google. I'm talking about some people who run around yelling, freedom! Yeah, freedom for them, but not freedom of speech. Propagandists, liars, people who hurt people. I'll stand against them every day. I already have. I'm not going to get too specific here tonight, but for those of you who watch regularly, I think you know what I'm talking about. Freedom. We believe in it here. We believe in freedom of speech. I believe in a free media, freedom of expression. I've been fighting for it all my life, since I was a kid. And I'll continue to fight for it now. People who try to shut us up and shut us down, people who call themselves freedom fighters, are nothing of the sort. There's another word that starts with the letter F that describes them much more accurately. It's not freedom. Second letter is an A. Be careful who you follow, folks. You might get just what they want. We're going to go to the phones. Stay with me.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, I'm back. I'm getting the phone lines set up here. Go. To explain in plainer terms, yeah, we did receive some we had some problems because with the censorship and the banning issue, because of our coverage of the National Citizens Inquiry into the government response to the pandemic here in Canada. So that has been an issue. We've had some issues with our coverage of Donald Trump, which they don't care for on some social media platforms. But the larger issue, the more serious issue, is a smear campaign. And it's not coming from the left, and it's not coming from the social media platforms themselves. It's coming from within. What goes around comes around. Karma. And I'm not talking about it coming back to me. The channel was banned because of the actions of some people. But you're not going to shut me up. I'm still here. And where I see bad actors, I'll do my job as a journalist. Professionally, properly, ethically. All right, let's go to the phones. Here's the number to call. We're ready to roll.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Okay, sorry I had to step away there. I had a little bit of an issue over in the other part of the room. So we're back and it's time to pick up the calls. Here we go. Let's go to our first caller of the night. Hello. Who do we have on the air?
It's Sandy.
Hello.
How are you, Rick?
I'm fine. How are you? I was always happy to hear from you. Good.
Can you hear me?
I can. You go ahead. What do you want to talk about?
Okay. Okay, so here's the thing. I live in a small town. Okay.
Okay.
So you know what I'm going to say?
Nope. Don't know.
Give Trudeau a break.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Give him a break. You know why I'm saying give him a break?
No.
Because he legalized marijuana.
Okay.
Okay, let me speak. He's young. He is the youngest prime minister that has ever been in Ontario for a long time. So I leave it at that. And I saw the rally of Trump on Saturday. I was disgusted. Do you know why I was disgusted?
No, I don't.
Okay, the tune he was using from Top Gun.
Yeah.
Okay. So he needs to stop doing that. He used a tune in the pandemic, and it was a Neil Young tune, and it was Keep on Rocking in the Free World.
Yeah.
He was sued for it.
Yeah.
So Neil Young backed down during the pandemic because it was a pandemic. So give it time, and I hope he comes back and sues him again for it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been doing my homework, and I've been doing a lot of homework. I saw the rally on Saturday, and Trump actually tripped down the stairs coming out of the plane.
Trump.
I never
tripped?
laughed so hard in my life.
Okay. I didn't see him tripping on the weekend.
You didn't notice it? He did. He tripped.
No, I didn't see that.
I did. I saw it, and he did. He tripped. The man is old. We need some young politicians in this world, and we need them now.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep it short, and I'm going to keep it brief so you can go on to your next caller. And you know what? Freedom means to me, speak the truth.
Yes. You know what? That's really it in a nutshell for me too. As a
Speak the truth. I watch it. I view it. I'm not there. I wish I was there sometimes, but I'm not. But you know what? Speak the truth. Biden, how old is he? Let's see some young politicians. Let's see some young people get into it. Let's see some young people get on it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm 56. I have a brain of a 40-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying.
I'm 56 and I have the brain of a 12-year-old.
Excellent.
Maybe 14.
Amazing. You know what? It's just a number. Age is just a number, but you know what? When it comes with words, attitude, live the dream. Live the dream.
Thank you, Sandy. We're going to move on.
You know what I'm saying? I love your platform. I love the mouse. I love everybody on here. I love Pam. You know what? Keep it going. Keep it positive.
Yeah. Thank you. It's always positive when you call in.
Thank you. You know what? Hey, I'm just doing my homework. I'm just saying.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sandy. You have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Okay. Here he is. Go ahead.
You got the moment, saw the man without a plan to master all disasters. The one, the only, the real deal, Leo. Somebody hacked me in the group, Rick.
Somebody
My
what?
name's coming up as hacked me in the group as Mouth of the South with my handle.
Oh.
And they're commenting, and it's not me, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Not me at all. So,
so much weird.
Teach me. How do you do that?
Going on? Is that you? It says, I'm calling in now. LOL. Is that you or no?
That's me.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm in the capital letters. Who's ever writing in small letters is not me.
Well, let me see if I can find
it. It is what it is.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but welcome to my new world.
Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You're not the only one getting screwed around.
Yeah.
As for Sandy, I love you, Sandy, but you're misinformed on the legalization of cannabis, because if it was legal, why are they asking 18 months to 2.5 years for me to be in prison for giving it away for food to feed the hungry? That don't sound too legal to me, Sandy. Okay, so I'm 53 on Easter. Easter Sunday's my birthday. I'm 53. I might be 56 when I get out. So that don't sound like legal to me. It sounds like legal lies. He was close. Legal lies. So I'm not buying what he's trying to sell, okay, to the people. Yeah, I legalized marijuana. No, you didn't legalize shit. Well, you still have people like me that are still possibly with a prison sentence over their heads for cannabis. That's not even decriminalized.
Yeah.
You know, gives everybody the right to grow 4 plants in the backyard, okay? And I could take those 4 plants and give them to my neighbor if I wanted to, legally. But for me, giving it away for food, to fill the food banks, which I did, now they're asking for some jail time. Give me a break. You know, I don't mind going to jail for something like that in a New York second. I do need a break from everything and everybody, and sometimes that's a good thing for me. Lets me refocus, re-educate my brain while I'm in there. So as for the 2 police officers, okay, the big funeral, man, what's that costing the taxpayers? Not to be rude or anything, okay, I understand. 2 young police officers died in the line of duty, okay? People die every day in the line of duty. It might not be as a first responder. Guys fall off bridges. A friend of mine last year, 1 year ago today, was crushed in a press at Saturn Tool and Die like a pancake. And he didn't even get a box of chocolates from the company, because they'd be acknowledging that they were guilty, okay, for a bad press with censors. And when he walked into the press, it came down and killed him. Yeah. Okay, there was no big funeral. I was at the funeral. I got the GoFundMe started. He ended up with about 15 grand in the GoFundMe. Daryl Mills is his name. Really good guy. Okay, so people die every day on the line of duty for whatever duty you're doing. To have that many police officers from across the country, North America, everybody show up, you can bet your bottom dollar they're getting paid. They're not on their own dime. Okay, so every police force, they send a contingency of police officers to attend the funerals. That's on the backs of us. Now, a fella dies in the military, the line of duty, you can't ask for somebody serving any better than the military. And when they die, do they have these big, extravagant funerals? No, they don't. Right? So that's our tax money at its best. April 1st comes very fast. Taxes are going up, folks. Where are we going? We're going... the politicians are going to give themselves another raise, $10,000 a year, because they've done such a great job.
Yeah.
What a beautiful job that they did. You know, and it must be nice to have a position in life where you give yourself a pat on the back with an extra $10K a year. What a joke. You know, what's going on in Israel right now and in France, I can see that happening in our beloved country very soon. Because people can't put up with this shit anymore, Rick. You know, Israel, they're doing a strike throughout the country. People are just walking off the job. Same thing in France, walking off the job, and the government's out there with the billy clubs and the mace,
yep.
the smoke, ordering people back to work. They're going to find out in a hurry that if the Canadian people do that, okay, and there's a nationwide strike like that, we're not slaves to anybody. And that's how you're going to show them. You cut off the money, you cut off the head of the snake and the serpent. It's all about dollars and cents, Rick. And I'd walk off the job right now. In a New York second, I'd stay off. You know, when you got people representing themselves, especially for a raise, but us, the working class, the ones that are paying these chumps, okay, we're not getting the raises. We're getting, what are we getting? Oh, we're getting a carbon tax on the first. The 6% alcohol tax just happened, I think, the other day, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's enough to drive you to drink.
If you can afford it.
If you can afford it. Brew your own beer, grow your own weed. That's freedom to me. Give it to your neighbor. Give it to the homeless for food. Trade it, barter it, do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
That's where we're going to head back to. So as for Sandy, you're a nice person, Sandy. You sound very nice, but you're wrong on legalization, hon. I know more about it, and 420 is coming up very soon, and I think we should discuss that. I'm going to try and get Mark Emery on your show for you, Rick. We're going to contact him.
Okay.
And I'd like to see him on your show.
Sure.
Okay, and yeah, he's got more insight on the legal lies and everything else that's happened throughout the history of cannabis, because I was there from the beginning with those guys, you know, protesting and fighting. And there you go right there. By protesting, it does work, okay, because I was there 25 years ago protesting. Yeah, we weren't getting much headway, but in the end, we did get the legal lies. Okay, so there's a lot of Supreme Court challenges still up in front of the courts as we speak for legalization, because people are still before the courts, like myself. Now, if I had an extra $1 million laying around, I'd be in a Supreme Court challenge, but that's what it costs. Okay, no lawyers are jumping to the aid of me, right? And I'm not doing no GoFundMe's or any of that crap. You want to hang me? Give me 18 months to 2.5 years, so be it. You know, at the end of the day, I keep my head held high, and I'm not gonna be stymied by anything that they say, because I know it's total bullshit. It's fabricated, the whole system. So they can play it all they want, right? I'm not playing their game. I won't be what we say. I won't be bullied by anybody. I'm not going that route. You know, you teach your kids to do the best things in life, okay, and stand up for the things that they truly believe in. Yeah. And I believe in legalization of marijuana, full out legalization. Who says that, Rick Walker, I'm excluded from legalization? You believe that? I can't even get a job in a pot store because I have a criminal record for pot. I can't grow marijuana and sell it to the pot stores because I have a record for growing pot. That's absurd, Rick.
It is.
I grow the best tomatoes. I grow the best tomatoes your mouth's ever touched, okay? You ever tasted. But I can't sell those tomatoes because I got a criminal record for growing tomatoes. Give me a fucking break. That's not legalized.
Well, I should tell you that I may have accidentally just banned you on the channel.
Oh, that's all right.
I was trying to ban the fake dude, the fake mouth. So if you're banned, it's because I banned the real one instead of the fake one. But I will unban you.
The real mouth of the South, please stand up. Please stand up. I'm here, but it is what it is. If I'm banned, that's all good.
Yeah, you let me know. You let me know, and I'll rectify that if I've done that.
I'll send a message. I'll send a hello to you.
Okay.
Let's see. That came up on my computer.
Yep, you're still there. So I got the right.
I'm still there. Then you got the other mouth of the South. Thanks, Rick.
All right. Thank you, sir. You have a great night. Talk to you later. Okay, here's Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Rick. Once again, I find myself kind of agreeing there with the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Trudeau only legalized pot for his own advantages, for selfish reasons, not for, it benefited a lot of people, but he did it for his own selfish reasons. He didn't have any heart in it when he did it.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, if you're going to legalize one plant, you should legalize them all. And anyway, that's a whole other story. It's a huge realm to get into. And like I said, I'm passionate about that topic. And I was going to write a book about it when I was in the profession, covering everything from laws to districts to different countries. But anyway, and yes, I did do a rough copy. That's why I kind of, it's in my mind. But anyway, I was calling mainly to say, wow, I'm happy to, I think there's a bit of enlightenment going on with the Rick Walker these days. A few weeks back, you said something. I'm like, yes, I think he's starting to see some things here that he might have been closed off to before. And you made a few comments along the line. And if I get the drift of what you've been saying tonight, I think, I think this show, I think your mind is going to expand on some topics, and the show could get kind of interesting. Verge on conspiracy type stuff, though, at times. That's one of the reasons I don't bring up some of the things that when you trigger me, I want to call in. I think, he'll maybe write me off as a conspiracy theorist. But I looked in some avenues, and I found things going back over 125 years that would suggest that what's happening now has been in the works since then. Just like what you're saying about sovereignty and you know, the whole, they call it the New World Order, and I think that name's changing and giving over power and control to one central place. So that's been in the works for, well, I guess every king or leader has wanted that at some point, but this master plan, I think, is well documented in writing over the past, well, more than 125 years. But the earliest two works that I was able to find go back about 125 years. One's around 1900, and the other, I don't have a date for, but it's prior to 1900. And it's pretty well known, that book. It's all over the place. I don't like saying it because people say, oh, that's a conspiracy book, but some brilliant minds in the past have referred to that. And anyway, I'm going to drop that. But anyway, I just wanted to say, great. I'm happy about it. However, a couple of weeks back, I thought, oh, maybe he's off track again because you said something about the UN that I totally disagree with. I don't think that the UN, there's nothing good about the UN. It's all nefarious. It was nefarious in its engineering. It was nefarious literally from the first brick that got laid within the building. That institution is completely nefarious. But
what was it that I said that
I think it was a caller. I don't think it was the person. It was not the night when was it Dimitri? What was his name? It was not the night that you had the gentleman from the UN call in, and he was, you know, such a nice gentleman. Anyway, I won't get on that. So, but I think a caller called in and was talking about something, and then you had said that you believe that UN has good intentions, they just may not be well delivered, or something to that effect. But I don't think the UN has good intentions at all. I don't think it ever has. Right back to the founding of it and its origins, and I can't think of what it was before it was the UN. I want to say its genesis started in a different group in New York as well. I can't recall what it's called. I'm sure one of the other callers might mention it or know it.
Well, there was the League of Nations, right?
Thank you. Yeah, that was its genesis.
And that whole idea was to bring nations together to prevent another world war, which was the idea behind it. But I think it's been perverted and turned into a collectivist ideology. And I think it's become very fascistic.
Well, I agree 100%. Yeah. And I don't think that was an accident. Was it Rockefeller who donated the land? He had a large say in it in the beginning, and partly because he donated the land and because he was such a powerful man.
Yeah.
I've always found it interesting that they have that meditation room. Are you familiar with that?
No, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the meditation room.
Some people refer to it as more or less the religious room, because you can go there and meditate or whatever. But I understand it as the meditation room, and it's bizarre. Like it has a black magnetic stone, reminiscent of, you know, many other things. But it kind of shows their Well, that's just going to sound too conspiratorial. I'll just let it go. But I don't believe that any aspect of that building was designed with good intentions, and that sums it up right there. If you look into the meditation room or the mural in the main meeting hall, it's kind of weird. But
yeah,
you triggered me there for something. Oh, yeah, I was going to mention a coincidence with the Vatican, but I don't recall what it is. I'm religious. I'm not Catholic, but the shift with what's going on in the Vatican and the Pope towards one world religion coincides directly with the UN and their relationships. And one world religion, one world government, one world military. And do you know who actually wanted to head the one world military? Prince Charles. The other night, something came up. I forget what it was we were talking about. And I didn't recall that. I remember that after the fact. But he had suggested, I think it was in around 2007 or 2002, the UN should head a one world military, and he had decided that maybe he should be at the head of it.
Yeah.
But he's very political for a king, or at least the king of England, who always said that they would not be political, which is another concern of mine. But anyway, I've probably taken up enough of your time. I just wanted to say I like the bend that you're on right now, and it seems like you might be opening your mind up to some of these former conspiracies and seeing that there are actually elements of truth through them. And I'm happy to witness that.
Well, I appreciate the call, sir. It's always a pleasure to
All
talk
right,
to
thanks.
you. All right, take care, my friend.
Have a good night.
See ya. Okay, who do we have now?
Well, hello, sir.
Hello.
I believe that's me.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. We'll go with me because it's
Yeah.
anonymous.
Well, I'm sticking to it.
That's okay.
Yeah. You know what? I agree with Steve. I'm really excited about what you're going to be opening up, what Pandora's boxes are going to be opened, because surprisingly, you may not realize this, I know a lot more than I'd let on to. And I can't wait for you to give a voice to some of it. I'm excited. Yay.
Well, don't get too excited. You may not, some of the people may not like what I have to reveal.
Well, the sleeping people and the ones that don't want to know might be in that category. But those of us that have been bursting at the seams with the truth are excited as all double hockey sticks, let me tell you.
Okay. Well, we'll see
But
if
anyway,
I'll see if I live up to the expectations.
I bet you will, judging on tonight's show. I'm excited. All right. So freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom is everything. It's what we were born, how we were born, what we were born into. And we have a government that should be protecting all of the freedoms, all of them. Yeah. And there is in Quebec, I found out in Quebec, they love to throw the rest of us under the bus. The honest endorsement of Bill C-11 from Andriane LaRoche, who quote unquote said, if violating freedom of expression means ensuring that Quebec content is well represented online, then that's worth it. So she just threw us under the bus. The problem is people are literally throwing the word freedom around like it's a candy bar and everybody wants a bite.
Yep.
And they're doing it underneath their own purpose.
Yep.
And that's a prime example. Prime example. If that doesn't get under your skin, I don't know what will. Because that threw us all under the bus. Now, artists, I recently got to hear AI recording music. It was bloody awful.
Artificial
Not one bit of
music?
feeling or soul. Yes. It was horrific. There's no sense of feeling. Yeah, it was awful. And think about it. When everybody was enjoying, all I could think about was this. When everybody was enjoying the Trump rally artist, which was fantastic, by the way.
Yes.
Imagine if all of a sudden human artists are no longer able to express themselves in such a way and do what they are so good at doing. Imagine if that was an AI artist. Would it have touched all of us as much as it did? Do you think?
I don't think so. You know, it's strange times. You have artificial intelligence photos now that are created, right? By typing in text, and you can get apps to do this. And they'll generate a photo for you. It's powerful, and it will only get better over time and exponentially.
But it doesn't have the soul.
Yeah.
It'll never have the meaning that real artists, humans, bring to that, because it takes a lot of craft and talent, and no one human artist creates the same thing the same. That's what makes us special, and that's what they want to take away from us.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, with all this editing of DNA and all this stuff, this is a dangerous, slippery slope. It's scary. It's really scary. And I've known about this for quite a while, and I've been scared to say a word about it because, well, you know, but, you know, it is terribly real. A lot of people are going to deny it. Even if they see it on the government website. They're denying stuff on our very own government website. It's all there. But, you know, it's not real. But, you know, I wanted to ask you, who was it that was talking about the budget? You had these two young guys. That's what about when I came in. Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, that was really good. Because, they were bang on, and we need this to stop. Cringeworthy watching Trudeau with his smug answers. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. There is no way in hell, double hockey sticks, excuse me, sorry, that just because somebody is young and votes for pot makes them qualified to be a prime minister.
Yeah.
There should be a total ethics exam. There should be morality exam. They should be so scrutinized, deeply scrutinized before they are given such a powerful position. And I've got an old photograph. It's a black and white photograph of a young Trudeau smoking a doobie. We all know why. You know, he did what he did. But again, it's like Leo said, and great call too, Leo. Like he said, it's again selective. It ain't, you know, nothing straight up with this government. Nothing. There's all kinds of twists and turns and crooked corruption, backdoor deals. It's a mess. So no, sure, it'd be great if somebody was young and ethical and had good morals and was there for the people and all that great stuff. But I would take an old fart that had all of that over any young yuccafuck any day. That's my piece on that. Now, here's the thing about our freedoms getting sold out from under us. Well, you know, if general public who are out there, for example, I saw a video, I think it was in the UK, one of the smart city things, and there were a couple of regular Joes making sure that nobody left their city, and they had their yellow vest on and whatever, and they're doing their job. If all these people, all the regular people around the entire planet just said no, stopped doing the bidding of these evil globalists, they need us right now. They need us. We do not need them. Collectively, we got more money than all of them. So they're attacking our bank accounts and all of that. TD has gone rogue. I mean, I swear to, for the ever loving, I put out the message today in a big way because TD has made it utterly impossible to even say no to their digital BS.
Yeah.
They made it impossible. So people who don't know about it, they're going to find themselves one morning, they're going to get a huge slap in the face and they're stuck. They've lost their sovereignty with their financials. You know, unbelievable. Sovereignty is huge. It's everything. Freedom and sovereignty. I mean, without all of that, we're doomed. And I 100% everything you said about Putin, bang on. Bang on. Mm-hmm. I've always been, I have 100% felt like he was fighting for all of us in this case. The corruption in the UN and everywhere, like, the corruption is brutal. He's the only one making sense right now, literally. And yeah, I'm excited about what's around the corner in one way. If everything goes the way we in our deep hearts actually hope and think will, we're going to come out the other side okay, but we got a crap load of crap to get through before we get there. But people got to stop doing their globalist bidding, like right from the grassroots core, say no, because that's what's enabling all of this to keep moving forward, in my humble opinion. The New World Order, the presidents for how many years have been bringing up the New World Order? They have been talking about this for a heck of a long time. And yet people kept sleeping and thinking, nah, what did he just say? Oh, Han, can you grab me another beer? And now we're here.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, that kind of stuff is, people need to, you know, I'm hoping more and more people are starting to wake up and whatnot, and stop selling out your own personal sovereignty by going along with stuff just because it's easier or convenient or whatever, because all of those actions on grassroots level is what's supporting and enabling these globalists that want the one world order. They like, stop it, just stop it now. So there's my piece. You know, and artists, like we're gonna have a big problem. As a songwriter myself, I'm almost you know, this could take us down such a terrible slippery slope where we have to edit our own heartfelt songs, messages to the world from the universe that come pouring through us naturally. We're going to have to pick and edit, you know, every little bit and bob. That's not going to be the same anymore. You're not going to get that pure the content that gives you, the people out there, goosebumps. That magic will be stolen from you. And when you stop getting that magic, then you're going to wake up. My humble opinion.
Okay, well, we better wrap it up.
So I'll let you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I know I talk too much. I'm sorry.
You don't. No. Love it when you call in. Thank you.
Oh, bless. Thank you. Very kind of you.
Okay.
You have a great evening, and hello to all the hooligans out there.
What is that?
Have a good night.
Tell me what is? I keep seeing that the hooligan party of
I know.
Ontario. What is that?
I know those crazy kids. They're, you know, they just fell in love with the word and decided that, you know, all the Mavericks were the new Maverick hooligans.
The Maverick
so there you
hooligans. Go. See, I thought we were a little kinder and gentler than that, but they've self-adopted.
I thought so too, because it's like it's metamorphosizing into something. Like I'd like a softer image than that personally, much softer. However, it is what it is. I'm just me. I'm one against a whole whack of other hooligans. So,
well, maybe we can discuss that in greater depth. I can't dictate what the whole family wants to be seen as, but I
know.
I mean, hooligans tongue in cheek, I guess, but I thought we were fighting for virtuous things as knights, not a bunch of hooligans.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Right? I know. I'm not with the skull and crossbone images and the dark.
No.
I'm not into all that. I'd like to see some happier, brighter, more inspiring.
Yeah, I
something more inspiring. Yeah.
I understand
So,
the
but,
comedic nature of it and the and maybe
I do too. Yeah.
the satire, but maybe we could revisit that.
Yep.
And come up with something a little more positive. I think that's really where I'd like to keep things here. But we can discuss.
Yeah,
it,
for sure.
As a group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Don't be mad at me. I guess I let the hooligan out of the bag.
No, I've
Lord
been
help me now.
seeing it, and I've been like, hooligan party of Ontario. What is that? How did that happen?
I know.
It's okay.
I went to bed, woke up, and there it was.
See, the other danger is our prime minister might just take that seriously. We've seen him do things like that.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, if Diagolon, the cartoon, was such a big enough issue to bring on the EA, can you imagine what hooligan can do?
Yeah, leave me out of that, man. Okay, like that ain't me. Next thing you know, Rick, why are you the leader of the hooligan party of Ontario?
Yeah.
Look, what are you talking about? I didn't make it. They said you're the leader.
You didn't know that you were running for election? You didn't know you were running for election, eh?
Oh,
yeah.
I had no idea.
You've been nominated.
Okay. Well, thanks,
on that note, you have yourself a great evening.
Okay, thank you.
And now I'm in trouble, I'm sure. Okay, good night.
Right, see ya. All right, here's Gregory all the way from St. Louis.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Well, you tell me. You wanted to talk about what tonight?
I was two kind of off the top. I was listening to your show a little bit earlier, or I've been listening, and it seems like AI, and then I had another thing. I heard people kind of worried about the AI thing. I am also an artist. I'm a musician and an artist. I've been to college, and I don't know if people recognize this, but music comes from pain and joy, something that has a soul. And also, if you go to college and if you ever observe things like in museums or whatnot, you will notice that art that will tell us part about what our history is and the way people felt and what our history was. So that's nothing that AI could ever touch. AI is all about putting an input in that a human has to do. So what we do through that is our observation and our feelings coming through there with our soul. So that can never be touched. So that's my personal opinion about that. Mm-hmm. I mean, the blues music, let alone, and if you look into it, it's about, you can see sayings, it's about a lot of people going through pain. And there's no way AI knows about pain or how to write a song about it. It's just not possible. So, I mean, that's my feeling about that. The other thing that was kind of, I've called in before, and it just makes me wonder, it keeps sticking with me, and it's about when they talk about this great reset. If you play video games, in order for something to reset, it has to go to 0. So it makes me wonder, do the elite know something that we don't know? Is something on the way? It just makes me really wonder about that. Not that everything has to be bad. It makes me wonder, why would you really want to track and trace anybody? Could it possibly be for a good reason? If something really bad happened, you might want to find out where they're at. I've always tried to look at all angles.
Money and power.
Yeah, I believe you. I know, I believe that. And I've always tried to think about different sides of it. But I also believe that I look around a lot of the things on our earth and whatnot, and we don't know how to make them anymore. And things are left here. So it makes me wonder, like when you hear about Noah's flood, have things happen along the way that, maybe there's some kind of timetable that for some reason the elite know about it and maybe have hidden it from it. So let me give you an example. Let's just say every 250 years, you know what hits the fan. But they try to hide history, change it, and do all these different things. But if people knew something was getting ready to reset or happen, they would act completely different in their lives, and then the elite, knowing it, might let everything go to what, knowing that it's getting ready to happen. It's just a thought I've entertained.
A big part of the Great Reset is, I think, the reset of the economy, because they know that the US dollar as the world reserve currency is reaching the end of its life. We're seeing it play out right now, I think, with huge deficit spending, massive amounts of debt, devaluation of the currency, destabilization of the banking industry, and they're going to ride this thing out. And I think it's near the end. And that's precipitating this.
I agree. That's part of it.
Yep.
I agree. If you wanted to, kind of focus in and hone in on that one little thing, but if you were to zoom out and look at a lot of things, it just makes you really wonder if it might be something bigger than that. Like they had those Georgia Guidestones, and that had they wanted to get the population down to 500 million or less, and whatnot. And then we have histories of people living underground and just things happening. We have things on our earth that are here that they will literally tell you, we do not know how they got here. And they'll go as far as, and it makes me laugh, saying the aliens did it. So there's a lot of unexplained things. You look all around the world, and it's hard to find trees that are older than 200 and some years old. So it just makes you wonder if every couple hundred years or so, if something happens. I'm just entertaining the thought. That's all I'm saying. When I keep hearing Great Reset and all that, I'm just trying to open my mind up to that. It's something known by these guys. They have these really expensive bunkers, and all this stuff. I'm throwing this out there. It's Hollywood, but I'm just seeing what you may say or think about that.
Yeah, I think that it is largely based on the end of our current economic system's lifespan, the dollar, and I think you're seeing the elites trying to just assert their power and influence, preserve it, and a lot of that is why we're seeing this conflict with Russia, China, Iran. You're seeing the world being divided, and it's the impact of new technologies that they're finding they can use to their advantage, to cement their position as the lords of the world, right? So it's a combination of all of those.
Do you believe in possibly like resets, like possible cataclysms, like maybe like one big event that happens, like, and we get so far up each time, and then we just get smacked back down, and then we're very few, and we have to build back up every once in a while. I wonder if you could entertain that thought.
You mean like natural cataclysms, like an asteroid strike, that kind of thing?
It could be anything like that, something to do with the sun, an asteroid, a comet. There's things in the Bible that talk about that. They talk about the stars falling. They talk about a lot of weird things, and it really makes you wonder. Do these things happen? Like God looks down, and he's like, oh man, it really looks bad down there. And then he says things like the meek shall inherit the earth, and we got our elites talking about a great reset. So I'm just saying, open it up. And I wonder, is there possibly something on the way? If the elite knew, you could see how they had let everything just literally go to crap and try to go down in their bunkers and survive it, and then come back out and try to change history again and make it look this way or that way. I'm just saying, entertain the thought. I don't know, but I know that there have been things that have happened here, and we have things left on this earth that cannot be explained. They don't know who built it, how it was built, and all these different things. And it only leads towards one thing: is our history has been erased, and we don't understand a lot of things. And I personally think that we have resets. We get up and we go so far, and it happens all the time. God looks down, he's like, they did it again. All right, so here we go.
Well, it certainly feels like we're at the end of something. I'm mostly concerned that it's going to deteriorate into some sort of a nuclear conflict, and there is your great reset right there. If we go down, if that happens, it's the end of everything as we've known it. So we're kind of there.
I got you, brother. I was just curious. I was wondering, I was listening and opening up. I think the AI thing, I see where it's going, but like the lady with a very nice voice said, she should do like radio or commercial or something. I think her name was Sandy, the 56, 40-year-old. She has a great voice.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just, AI has no soul. So, and art is a way to gauge where we're at in our history. It's about pain and feeling joy and how we feel, but something that has no soul can do that. It can only take input.
Okay, well, we better move on. Got some more calls lined up here. Thank you very much for the call. Always great to hear from St. Louis. Great town.
Thank you, brother. Bye.
Take care. Okay, and I'm not sure who this is, but I think you want to talk about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Hey, Rick, what's going on?
Good. Who's this?
This is Tom.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How you doing? I was on your show a while back, and I was remembering I had audio issues, man. I had to let you go.
Okay. So what?
No, it's Dr. Doom 42, the fellow that does the racetrack, the local dirt track here.
Okay, cool.
On the YouTube. So like you remember now?
I remember it. I do remember the call. We showed some video, yeah, of the dirt track.
Yes, yeah, right. Anyway, yeah, like I said, I'd like to talk about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Okay.
Because from my standpoint and from my memory and from my lifetime, there's been occasions where my rights and freedoms were stripped from me unnecessarily, like.
Okay.
I'll let you know when that happens. Like it's when you get detained by the police and they just have accusations against you, basically. So what they do is they place you in a holding place and they tell you that you have no rights or freedoms. They are stripped from you. You have no choice or say in the matter whatsoever. And basically that gives them the right to treat you however they feel like. And that type of situation happens when people get thrown to what I call the loony bin or a mental health care facility.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. One of those places is attached to a jail. It's called the East Coast Forensics Hospital. It's in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And when they release you, they prepare you for living in society again. It's like the parallel to jail, except it's just other people's bullshits and made up stories turn into accusations. And then before you know it, it's a believable story to the people that are in power. And then they just decide, amongst a group of them, and they're nobody really, nobody important, like a lawyer, a doctor, etc. A few people on this thing called the board that make that decision. And people should just realize this really happens in Canada because I've experienced it.
Yeah, I know of someone
on more than one occasion.
Yeah, I know of someone who has gone through this.
Yes, well, let me tell you, the treatment that you suffer, basically, I'll put it to you this way. I had a problem with the word settle because they just wouldn't explain it to me clearly. And I know what settle means in a banking term. It means you got to wait 2 days for your money to wash through the system. It settles. That's what it does. In order for you to get your money out of the banking system, basically, it's a network of trading that happens that outputs your money.
Yeah.
from where it begins its journey, basically. And it takes a couple of days for that to happen because it's a complicated procedure that it takes time. The machines can only go so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're understanding this whole conversation so far, because it's got to do with like I said, the rights, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Now, if anybody were to care to read that carefully and slowly and just pick apart every word, you would come to realize that the government is habitual at stripping people's rights and freedoms just because they want to be the boss of how history in the future is going to happen. You see?
Okay.
When the history of the future should be empty, but they put stuff there. You know, it's forward thinking.
Okay.
You know, but that in itself takes away everybody's individual rights and freedoms, because it's just a few people's vision of the future that they want to chase, and they're dragging everybody with them.
All right.
Is there something? The problem?
No, I'm not.
I'm going to get to the point right now. Okay,
you're kind of losing me, but yeah, let's.
Okay, well, I'll get to the point right now. Let's focus it really clearly.
Okay.
What I see that's happening throughout the entire planet right now is basically a civil war in an anarchistic style, as being each individual is got their own rights and freedoms and has the choice to take their future in the direction that they want it to go. Now, you see how that's anarchistic in nature? But the thing is, you got to maintain your rights and freedom and get along with everybody else in the universe, basically, not just the Earth, because there's more to the universe than just the Earth, because this just takes us right up to the next level. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that a society that embraces individual rights and freedoms is...
The police and everybody always tell me that my issues with like people stealing money from me in the past, it's a civil matter. You got to deal with it, blah, blah, blah. It's civil.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I'm thinking, in order for me to get my money back from the people that robbed me, and it's like the police are condoning this behavior, and actually part of the problem with extortion and all this corruption that's going on with the government, that's the civil war that's global. It's gone global, and it's anarchistic. Like, that's the net solution of what's going on in the world right now.
Okay.
Yep. Well, like, I'm just trying to explain it easily as I can.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. We're going to move on.
Not a problem, buddy.
All right. Thank you. You have a great night, my friend.
You too, Rex. Have a good one.
Take care. Hello, Dave. How are you tonight?
Yep. Hi, Rick. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Thanks for waiting so long.
That's all right. I was having a little trouble following him. I understand what he's trying to say, but when he went universal, he lost me. I like to keep my my issues just like in our own little area.
Sure. Well, why don't you focus on what it is you want to talk about?
All right. I just wanted to mention this thing earlier. What got my interest was you put this thing up in Britain about this bio business.
Yeah.
What was it called?
It's the precision bred legislation.
Right. Precision bred.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't that really bring your attention there? What it reminded me of, I've been, since I was a kid, I mean, I raised rabbits, I had chickens and pigeons, and, I've been a biologicalist all my life, I guess, but not educated, but, I seen you mentioned something about this bio bullshit. I I think actually what they're trying to do with the GMOs and all this business is they want to control everything. They want to play God is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They want to play God. They want to genetically do whatever they think is best and, you know, create their own people. They've been trying to do this for years. They never got away with it after, you know, in the Second World War, they were already looking into all this. But they have the technology now. Now they're trying to create this where people are going to be selected. You're going to have to be selectively bred. Then we can modify you on top of that with the AI. I mean, I'm 71 years old. I would have never imagined back in the day that this was ever going to be going on. Not my lifetime anyway. But apparently it's here. And I was very impressed that the amount of knowledge you seem to have when you brought this up, and then you started talking about it comes down to sovereignty. Well, that's the whole idea. It's about sovereignty. But they're going to control this. What they want to do is control everybody on the planet. Then they're going to selectively breed what you're eating, selectively breed who you are. Like, they're not God. Why do these people, like Bill, I don't want to mention names, Bill Gates or whoever, these people think that they have the right, because they have the money and the resources, that they can play God with the rest of the planet. They I don't know. What's your view on it, Rick, as far as this thing goes? I mean, when I was a kid, I studied Gregor Mendel. He dealt with genetics. Charles Darwin, he dealt with evolution. These guys have taken all this knowledge that these other guys discovered, and now they want to take our modern technology and put it all together and control everything with that shit. What's your view?
It's about the balance of nature. We should not play with that. We need to keep our society more organic. I think even the reference to the eighth fire, First Nations, is very much in that vein. When these, and I think this is really at the heart of the whole matter, genetic engineering, biotechnology.
It's the heart of my soul you're talking about.
These scientists, these collectivists, these, I'll call them communofascistic globalists. I think that's really the new term, globalists.
Well, that sounds about right.
They believe they can control everything from the economy to the weather to the evolution of entire species, convert living beings like human beings into transhumans, converging even
and the weather,
machines and humans and animals. They can create whatever they want to create. They can control things to a degree that is true, but at a certain point, the laws of nature become undeniable. And like everything that human beings try to control, when they try to exert that control, they get unintended consequences. Some people think they can just look at the economy. They think that they can get what they want simply by printing more money or taxing a certain group of people to get this outcome. But in reality, it sets off a chain reaction with a whole series of unintended consequences where they may have positive or negative consequences or impacts on other people or in other areas that they never foresaw. So too is the case with biotechnology, genetic engineering. They're opening a Pandora's box of horrors, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
You go down that road, you start creating entirely new species. You look at what happens with just invasive species coming from one part of the earth to, say, Lake Erie, zebra mussels.
That's all
sea
man-made
lamprey.
too. They created that shit.
Yeah. You let these genies out of the bottle, who knows what you end up with. And you're dealing with already, without even really getting too deeply into this at this point. We're at the beginning stages of this kind of technology, and we're already wrestling with the ethics of it. I raised all these questions already. At what point does an animal become human if you're mixing human DNA with an animal?
Well,
and then when do they get?
Oh yeah, and then add a little artificial intelligence in there.
Well, if
no,
you're
they're
really
stepping out of their bounds.
I mean, you're not. Artificial intelligence is computer intelligence, right? So if you get people jacked in, we've seen the monkeys that they can actually wirelessly through Bluetooth control the Pong game, right, with their brains. So when you're talking about mixing artificial intelligence, that's really jacking people
and GMO.
But you don't get artificial intelligence biologically. Artificial intelligence is synthetic. It's computer generated, period.
I think they're trying to create that. They want to take the whole deal. Wait, no, you hit it. When you put that thing on earlier, I thought Rick knows more than people realize. Mm-hmm. They are taking our whole biological system, like their knowledge of it, and they're using it to their advantage. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to decide who breeds, who doesn't breed, what animals we breed, how we breed them. We'll genetically modify them. If we don't like this, we'll just do that. They're playing God. And like you said, we're dealing with Pandora's box. This is going to be a real fucking problem. It's going to be a real problem. That's all I had to say. When you put that up there earlier, I thought, here he goes. Now he's touching on what I have a little bit of knowledge about, and that's about breeding. I've been breeding animals for years, and we're always trying to better things genetically, but through selective breeding. These guys want to genetically modify shit. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not part of the game. It's not. They're like, what are they doing? They're going to destroy our society and destroy humanity through their stupid games because they can afford to do it.
Very complicated issues, especially when you're talking about genetically modifying human DNA or biotechnology that can cure diseases,
and then selectively breeding. We're all a big experiment to them.
So it's hard to say to someone who maybe has a disease that could be cured through that kind of technology to say, no, I don't think we better go down that road.
Oh no, they want to call them out. They've been trying to do that for years. Cull out any defective genes. Just call them out. Like instead of live and let live, like let's cull out if somebody has, you got a disease. Well, we'll call you out. You're not going to reproduce, but we're going to create this superior human that is resistant to everything and obedient and everything they want in a person, and then we'll create more of them and cull out the rest of the people. That they're playing God. They are not God. They never were. They never will be. You got to live and let live. Let life go on. Nature is perfection. It really is. If they just let this world, who said it? Lenny Bruce back in the 50s. Lenny Bruce was a comedian. Like a lot of other comedians, they told the truth. He said, the world is a beautiful place if it wasn't for people. And I'm going to leave it at that. And
Okay, time to move on.
thanks for letting me vent there, Rick.
Thank you, Dave. Take care. Okay,
Bye.
and a return caller.
Yeah, I
Anonymous.
wasn't planning on calling back, but I was about what we talked about at the end of the call. It was completely innocent, and I jokingly said that I'll probably get in trouble, but guess what? It's not a joke.
What's not a
joke? It wasn't a joke, and you aren't apparently a part of that whole, I can't even say the word, because I had 2 rabid dogs attack me in the group. I had no idea. It was an innocent thing. As it all kind of came out, it was innocent. I just saw the word floating around everywhere. I wasn't a part of whatever that created this special side part, but to me, it was just a Maverick group. And anyway, I just got madly attacked by a couple of really angry people, and I'm not impressed. You don't do that to someone, especially when they've even apologized and said it was innocent. And it was awful. I'm really upset right now. And like, we're adults, grow up. You don't talk to people that way. And especially if somebody said, what? It was innocent. I had no idea you guys had something special going on. I'm sorry. And I got called an idiot and stupid and all kinds of stuff. Not cool. That's not cool. So, and I'm not going to, you can't say anything on there because, you're being attacked and you got all these, they're coming at you. So anyways, I'm saying it here, and they're probably listening, and I hope they are. You need to not do what you did. It was not cool, and I didn't deserve any of that.
Where were they
Last
attacking
I
you?
heard,
In the chat?
No, in the Discord.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was really awful. Actually, I didn't deserve that. It was completely innocent. I didn't do anything knowing that I was outing something. And yeah, I'm pretty upset right now. I didn't deserve that.
So it's
just
not
to
a
let
joke?
you know, no, actually, I apparently outed something. So yeah, I was part of that particular group before these people even joined, and to me, it was strictly to support you. And apparently, there's something else going on I didn't know about, and it was an innocent thing. And apparently, I'm a horrible, stupid idiot now. So, sorry, Rick. I didn't mean to jump in with that, but there was nobody was listening to me. I was just getting name called and all kinds of stuff, and so here I am. I'm speaking it. I will not be bullied and treated like crap by anybody, especially people that are supposed to be in a group that is supporting Maverick News. That's what I thought it was mainly about. So I said my piece, and if I'm not welcome again because of it, so be it, because that seems to be how childish this is.
Okay. That sounds very disappointing.
Anyway, very disappointing.
Yeah, I don't control that group.
I know.
People.
I know you don't, Rick, but yeah.
I've been over there a couple of times just to look in, but briefly.
Yeah.
I just don't have time to get too involved
in
things, but
of
I
course
would hope
not.
that whatever is going on over there is positive, and if it has
That's what
my
I
name
hope for.
attached to it in any way, I certainly hope that it's being something that's positive.
Exactly, and that's exactly, and that's what apparently I missed one or two. I don't know how many nights of conversation. I missed what this whole thing was about. I just all of a sudden saw the word everywhere, and I thought they were being funny and it was a joke, and thus I thought, in good humor and good faith, I'd mention them and say hello to everybody, and I got ripped apart by a couple of them. So yeah, not cool. I'm pretty disappointed and very sad about that.
Well, we have some bad actors, some trolls that have been visiting our chat. We've had, to put it in very simple terms, people trying to destroy these channels from within.
Yeah.
And it's coming from within the freedom movement, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As I've been trying to explain to people.
I know.
And it's just ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. And I'm really not that interested in them because, you know, there are other things going on besides what's going on in their little minds. And I don't really want to engage too much in it because it's just a bunch of crap.
No. It is. It is. I mean, imagine my shock. I was like, I'm still in shock that I got attacked like that by a couple of them the way they did.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Don't let it get to you because, you know, the real thing going on is right here. So.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And again, I thank you for the great conversation, the great show, and I'm looking forward to more.
Thank you. All right.
Have a good night.
With that, I should bid you adieu for the evening. Look forward to the next call.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, Rick. You too. Bye.
Well, that sucks. Well, if anybody's engaged in that kind of activity, please stop. I don't know what's going on over there. I'm not sure I care to know. Yeah, the hooligan stuff, whatever that's about, I don't know what it's about. I thought it was some sort of a joke. No idea. I have nothing to do with it. I just noticed references to it. But that didn't sound very good to me. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's another Discord channel. I have no idea. No idea what's going on at all. We'll have to look into it, I guess. But again, like I don't control it. It's not my thing. I know that there are some other people out there using my name as well. And the company name that I've had for well over 20 years that I've used for a variety of related business activities. And now it's here, being used here. People taking the name now and associating it with this it really has nothing to do with me. But I don't know. And then there are just other people out there just trying to kill everything going on here because they're afraid of me. And that's fine too. But anyway, enough of that negativity. I'm just trying to ignore it, honestly, because I just don't want to play in the mud with the pigs. Not terribly interested. We have some very cool stuff lined up for later in this week, though. Let me just drop out of this just so I can explain what's going on this week, because so tomorrow, let me get rid of that too, because we're going to finish up with these calls for the moment. Tomorrow, Weldon, Thongman, going to be here. So special guest there. And then after he's finished up with his special interview, and we'll still do the news of the day, but then we'll have Weldon on, Thongman. He's got a special message for everybody tomorrow, a positive message. So I'm really looking forward to that and having him on because he's a very positive, energetic guy, and he's always welcome on the program. Then we're going to have the people from United for East Palestine. They're going to be on after that. Lori will be joining us for that conversation. All that tomorrow. Then Wednesday, busy guy, generous with his time. Chris Sky will be here Wednesday. So we'll have an interesting conversation with him. We'll discuss his bid for the mayor's job in Toronto. I know that everybody here is aware that Chris Sky is running for mayor. So I did have a conversation with him over the weekend. And he'll be joining us on the program Wednesday evening. So you don't want to miss that. And then later in the week, we have a lady, I think, coming on to talk about her experience with getting the Kool-Aid in the arm. We may need to jump off at some point with her interview and go over exclusively to Rumble as we explore her negative experience with that. She will also be testifying at the National Citizens Inquiry at the end of the week. So hopefully we get her on Thursday. I'm working on that. And then also coming up, I think later in the week, related to the situation in East Palestine, we should have Soup Mama on. I'm going to reach out and talk to her again. She has been doing some great work and has been delivering aid to the folks there in East Palestine, Ohio, where we saw that train derailment and all of those chemicals leak. Looking forward to doing something with her and having her bring us up to date on her efforts to bring aid to the people who need it most in East Palestine, Ohio. So lots of stuff lined up this week. Big, big week. And I know that Thong Man's going to talk about what's coming up in Ottawa April 1st. So big, big stories, lots of interesting guests. So looking forward to it. And with that being said, we're going to wrap it up for the evening. If you are inclined, you can support the channel by donating at freedomreporters.com. We certainly could use the support, especially in the face of all this censorship and outright bans, which we are going to be addressing. And I think we'll get that one ban overturned, honestly, because it's completely uncalled for and is based on nothing more than fabricated complaints, if you're getting my drift, that don't even make any sense and cannot be correlated to any content on the site or the channel at all. So I'm certain that we'll get that back. And you can also donate at maverickdonations.com. The money that is donated goes to the phone system and also to help offset the costs of all of the cybersecurity that I've had to put in place because of the attacks that have been leveled against the social media channels, the websites, all of our digital assets. And it just helps cover all the bills too. The software, the streaming software, the subscriptions, the costs are much higher than people might expect to run this whole thing. We are over on Rumble, so please subscribe over there if you haven't already. We're growing over there. It's extremely important now more than ever that we shift as many people over to Rumble. At least if you have the subscription, if we do get banned off YouTube, Facebook, you'll still find us over there. And we are generating more and more numbers every night over on Rumble. So please take a look at that. You can still watch us over on YouTube, Facebook, wherever if you want to, even if you subscribe over there. But later, if they take us down, they don't give us the subscription list. Like I don't have all the names. So if you subscribe over there, then we'll have you. And what we should probably do is ramp up our efforts to collect email addresses from people so we can put together a list that way so we can always reach out to people if we get a permanent ban on our main channels. And we have, multiple channels, so we do have backups, but it's always a possibility. So donate at maverickdonations.com or freedomreporters.com. Like, share, subscribe. Please subscribe even on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. Share over on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Twitch. Check out the rebroadcasts on Clouthub and Gab and the other platforms as well. And we're now across a bunch of other podcasting platforms with rebroadcasts through Podbean as well at the Maverick News channel over there. Appreciate the support from everyone. Thank you so much for spending the time here with us tonight. We will be back tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Thong Man and the Peace people from United for East Palestine on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.